How does the Mavericks adding Kyrie Irving shake up the San Antonio Spurs?
You are Locked On Spurs, your daily San Antonio Spurs podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Spurs. We're here on the Locked On NBA Network. I'm your host, Jeff Garcia, Spurs writer for Kens 5 San Antonio. Glad to have you back. Hope everybody's doing fine in this very long Spurs season as the team is on their rebuild. But part of the rebuild, though, is kind of keeping up with the Joneses. And it seems that the Mavericks added a big piece recently with Kyrie Irving. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be looking at the big question, at least in the short term. When will the Spurs win? When's the next W? And then we have a mystery buy-sell question later on the show with our guests. Hey, thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen each and every day. As always, we are free and available wherever you get podcasts. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel, the official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn to get started today. Let's go and bring him on. He is Rudy Campos. He is back right here with us on Locked On Spurs. Rudy, welcome back to Los, and I gotta present to you. I actually got a fan letter about you.
Fan letter?
Email,
oh wow!
Or a fan email or a DM, whatever the case.
I was gonna say, does
nowadays.
anybody write letters anymore?
I know. That's how old I am. So I'm going to read it to you. It says, "Hello, Jeff. Thank you for having Rudy Campos on with frequency. We think he gives the best takes. We think he provides the best Spurs coverage and sports coverage, and he's one of our favorite guests. Signed, Rudy Campos's family and children." Way to go, Rudy!
Oh, I'm so glad that letter and email finally got to you.
I wonder if you put up your family up to that.
I did. Basically, I had each one write an email, and I picked the best one, bribed them with $500. So congratulations. I won't name the winner, but it is a $500 gift card to wherever you want.
All right. He is with Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. He's going to be bragging about his show later on this show. So, Rudy, we know you're a little bit of crunch for time, so we won't take up too much of your time. But let's go ahead and dive into this. So, the Dallas Mavericks, Brooklyn Nets made a deal. The Nets sent Kyrie Irving to the Mavericks, and the Spurs. The Mavericks sent Spencer Dinwiddie, and what was the other kid? Finney Smith. Thank you. To there, but the point is that in the Spurs' own backyard, the division got stronger. So it was bad enough that the Spurs in their own backyard have to deal with Zion and Luka Doncic before the Kyrie trade, and of course, Ja Morant, and then of course the Rockets with a perpetual top 5 picks that they keep on adding. Mm-hmm. I guess what I'm trying to get at is, do you think that with Kyrie now, at least for now, in the Southwest Division, how does that impact San Antonio? And do you think it kind of puts them behind the 8 ball a lot more during this rebuild, knowing they got another power player in their own division, let alone conference, to deal with?
Yeah, and real quick, apologize if you hear noise in the background. It is raining, so I'm up against a window. So if you hear anything bad like that, I apologize. But the thing is the fact that the Kyrie deal, it's a short-term scare for the Spurs, only because there's no telling if Mark Cuban's going to be able to sign him in the offseason. He is an unrestricted free agent after this year. He's commanding at least $200 million for 4 years. So there's no telling, with Luka coming up for his contract renewal pretty soon, is Cuban going to pay that money towards Kyrie? It's kind of like a short-term deal right now. But as of right now, yeah, the Spurs are behind the 8 ball when you look at other teams in the division. You're going to have to worry about the Pelicans for a while because Zion and Brandon Ingram, those guys are pretty much locked up for a good minute. Luka's going to be a terror with the Mavericks. The Rockets actually are on the up right now. Record-wise doesn't really show it, but they've got enough youth on that team that they're going to be good pretty soon here. So with the Kyrie deal, short-term, it's a problem. If he re-signs with the Mavericks and it's him and Luka for a while, it'll be a problem from here on out. But as a Spurs fan, as people that have covered the Spurs like you and I, it's nothing to really worry about because we'll get into that a little bit later on in Locked On Spurs as to why you don't have to worry. But right now with the Kyrie deal, it's not too much of a concern unless he signs long term.
I'm right there with you. I think this season's a wash, so forget about it. It is what it is. Spurs move on in their rebuild. But if the long term happens and Kyrie enjoys his time with Luka and the Mavericks, and it works, and he doesn't cause any off the court issues, then that's going to be a problem because the Spurs don't even have a power player on the roster. Of course, this is recorded before the trade deadline. Who knows? Maybe a miracle happens and the Spurs swing for the fences and they get themselves a power player in silver and black. But barring that, and however unlikely that is, I think that I think long term it will hurt San Antonio knowing that that's just another team they got to deal with. So let's just say Kyrie works out for next 2-3 seasons. Well, I'm hoping by then, Rudy, that in the next 2-3 seasons, a power player is already in San Antonio, whether it be via the draft, Wemby, or Scoot, or just free agency. So then you got to assemble a team. I just think that the Spurs rebuild is going to go according to what they feel in their timeline, but other teams are going to be making moves as well. It just feels like this just kind of, if you're a Spurs fan, you're like, my God, not only got to deal with their own rebuild, but then we got to worry about teams adding players. It's becoming a kind of an arms race, Rudy, especially in the NBA.
Yeah, it is. You see a lot of super teams, quote unquote, being built around the league. But, let's be real about it. Look at the super teams that have been truly successful. And I really don't want to count the Bulls back in the 90s, with Jordan, Pippen, and Rodman. But look at a team like the Warriors. I mean, they had, a one title with KD or 2 titles, I think, with KD.
Mm-hmm.
But then you look at the Miami Heat when they had that super team built. LeBron didn't win, 6 titles or anything. So having a super team is not necessarily the greatest thing because not only do you have to deal with, scoring the ball because everybody wants to get there, you also have the egos in the locker room. So it doesn't really always work out. Hence the reason why Kyrie is not in Brooklyn anymore. Front office issues with some players. Now he's in Dallas. So seeing that these teams are getting built and having 3 or 4 All-Stars at sometimes at one point, it's not necessarily a great thing. What I like about the Spurs is that they are in the absolute perfect position. And it's hard to say because you're going to say, well, their record sucks. Yeah, the record sucks, but they're in the perfect position. They're about to have almost, $80+ million in free agency here pretty soon.
Mm-hmm.
They can pretty much go after 2 big name guys via trade if they don't want to come here, take on the contracts. They've got a very good young core coming out right now with Keldon, Devin, Sohan, even Malachi Branham, who's coming around. You got to look at 2 other teams. Look at the Orlando Magic and look at the OKC Thunder. Those teams were basically built through the draft and through a couple of acquisitions. That's the reason why I feel the Spurs are on the right path. They've got those pieces. They're going to be good later on, just not anytime soon. If you get a superstar, great. Awesome. Are they going to be great, contenders right away? No, it's going to take a while to get this team up to where it is title contending.
Yeah, and anything too, I think this just shows that the Spurs need to get into the arms race, and that means trading away one of your better younger players right now. And I'm making this up, whether it be Keldon or Trey or Devin or Malachi, he's playing great lately. And then you may have to do that. Do you think that's a reality that the Spurs fans got to accept, that part of a rebuild is perhaps dealing one of these young bucks that are blooming and blossoming and developing this season? But you know what? Hold that thought. Let's go and take a break. When we get back, Rudy's going to answer that question, whether or not to keep up with the Joneses, that the Spurs may have to pay the piper in the short term for long-term success. Once again, we're with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. Make sure to follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. And now I want to talk to you about Rocket Money. Hey, you got to try Rocket Money for free for 30 days. It's enough time to try and completely forget about the subscription service. Before you know it, you're paying for a subscription you don't even use every single month. Yeah, get rid of that. With Rocket Money, you can change that in a few quick taps. Do you know how much your subscriptions cost? Most Americans think that they spend around $80 a month on subscriptions, when the actual total cost is closer to $200. And if you don't know exactly how much you're spending every month, then you need Rocket Money. The average person has around 12 paid subscriptions. Think about that. If you think you're only subscribed to a handful of services, you might want to double check. With Rocket Money, you can quickly identify and cancel all your unwanted subscriptions. Rocket Money, formerly known as Truebill, is a personal finance app that helps finds and cancels your unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and helps lower your bills all in one place. Over 80% of people have subscriptions they forgot about. And, like that streaming service you bought with just one show on, and you just forgot to cancel that free trial. You didn't even use it. Rocket Money will quickly and easily identify your subscriptions for you so you can stop paying for the ones you don't want. Simply find the subscription you don't want, press cancel. Rocket Money will cancel it for you. No more long hold times on the phone with customer service or tedious emailing back and forth. Rocket Money makes canceling subscriptions easy as a click of a button. Over 3 million have used Rocket Money and saving an average person of $720 a year. I use it. You should use it too. Stop throwing away your money, cancel unwanted subscriptions, and manage your expenses the easy way. Go to rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. That's rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA. rocketmoney.com/LockedOnNBA.
Autobots, roll out.
We're back right here with Rudy Campos of Sweep the League. We left you kind of with a cliffhanger at the break, whether or not the reality is that fans got to accept that perhaps this team in their rebuild may have to flip some of these young players that they've gotten attached to, like your Keldons, like your Trey Jones, like your Devin Vassell's. Is that part of the reality that fans have to understand that could become a reality as we see these teams make moves like we saw Dallas making a move to get a Kyrie?
The reality is everybody in a Spurs uniform, regardless who it is on the table. And that's the reality that's the
even a
business
guy
side
like
for-
Sohan. Even a guy like Sohan.
Yeah. If you've got a team who desperately wants Jeremy Sohan and they're offering, unprotected first-round picks for the next 2 years, 2 or 3 years, you mean to tell me that keeping Sohan and missing out on having potentially 2 lottery picks for the next 3 years is, like, oh, I can't do that? No, it's something you have to always consider. Now, is it the best deal to do? Probably not, seeing that his development with the San Antonio Spurs is really on the rise. I think right now everybody is on the table, no matter who it is. If it's Keldon, if it's Devin, I mean, hell, you can even go if it's Dominic Barlow or somebody. If anybody that is in a silver and black uniform is on the table, they've got to take offers on everybody. They got to listen, not take them, but they got to listen to offers to everybody. So as of right now, I would say no one's protected only because you're trying to rebuild. It's the question you've got to ask yourself is, how fast do we want this rebuild to happen? I don't think they're in any type of rush, to be honest with you. Like I said, the cap space they have is there for a reason. You've got guys like Keldon, Devin that are going to have to get paid pretty soon. That's when I would worry as a Spurs fan, because if they are at a high peak, they're going to command a big salary. If they can't offer that salary, that's when the trading ideas come into mind with these guys. But for right now, I think everyone's going to say a Spur, and they're going to just continue with the rebuild as is.
Yeah, and I think you got to look at the Spurs financially. They're sitting pretty right now. They got a lot of cash, if they want to, and if nothing happens to Pirtle as of this recording, they can re-sign him, and it won't make a major dent on their salary cap. And also, too, perhaps they're preparing for that as well. That reality that these young bucks are going to want to get paid. Keldon Johnson just got paid, but all things considered, he got a very team-friendly deal. You also look at Devin Vassell. If he continues to on his path of development, he one day has to get paid. Jeremy Sohan, the same thing too. If his career projection goes on, he's going to want to get paid. A lot of these guys are going to want to get their bucks. You've heard it so many times this season from Popovich, pregame and postgame, saying like, "Oh, so and so, they're playing for the contract. So and so, they're playing for their next, big check." And that's the reality of it. And I think that's why I think the Spurs have done a great job in the financial side of things, setting themselves up if that inevitable thing comes around. Look at the Warriors. I mean, how many times have they paid like tremendous money because they were going over the luxury, the salary cap into the luxury bill, and that bill they got is just ridiculous. But they maintain that, and they have somebody who's willing to foot the bill. Historically, the Spurs ownership really doesn't pay that much in excessive luxury taxes. Do you think that's going to have to also become a reality for this team, that they're going to have to start paying these crazy contracts?
They are going to have to start paying them if they want to keep some of their players. I mean, who's to say if Keldon or Devin or even Jeremy, take Jeremy for example, if he starts blossoming into an all-star starting next year and becomes an all-star, I mean, you're going to have a guy who's made one, potentially two all-star games. If it happens, he's going to command a massive contract. I know it's at a cap that you have after a rookie deal, but still, you're going to be talking about a guy who's going to be commanding a good amount of money. So they don't want to pay over the luxury tax. Now, this is not a shot to Spurs fans at all, but if they were continuously selling out home games, and I'm talking selling out home games where there were no seats available, then that salary luxury tax doesn't really affect them too much, because then they have that extra income coming in. So it's kind of a wheel that has to keep turning in order for great players to come in and get paid. There's got to be support there. So they don't want to pay a certain amount of money because there's not enough money possibly coming in, and they have to look at that and take everything into consideration. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes, but again, you know, they've got to be able to compete with the NBA, so they know they're going to probably have to pay a couple of players eventually.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, it's an interesting talk because of the Kyrie Dallas move. You know, you're seeing teams making moves to get power players. Well, the Spurs have to do that, and that doesn't mean that they have to start flipping some of these young guys. And then, of course, just in the short term, just does the Kyrie Irving really impact the Spurs rebuild? Don't know, because of Kyrie's history. You know, he's burned Boston, he's burned Brooklyn, he's burned Cleveland. Who knows if Dallas is next? Hey, but speaking of the Spurs, Rudy, as of this recording, they're on a 9-game losing skid. They played the Raptors by the time you listen to this episode. Hopefully they won, but if they didn't, when do you think they're going to win again? If you're looking at the calendar, what game does Rudy Campos circle that says, you know what, they got that one?
Ooh, man. Do me a favor. Give me the next couple of games.
Yeah,
there.
I'll give it. Okay, so we're not going to include the Raptors because...
don't include the Raptors.
Yeah,
I'm going to give them a loss for that anyway, but go ahead and give them the Raptors.
I am too. I'm giving them an L too. But so I think you're probably going to say yes to the first team that's after Toronto, Detroit, Friday night.
Oh, man. You know, I hate to say this is a toss-up, but it truly is a toss-up. I will give them a win against Detroit. Yeah. So I think that'll end their double-digit losing streak there, but I give them Detroit.
Yeah. All right. If they don't, we'll give you the next 3. So Hawks will be after the Pistons. That's DeJounte Murray's revenge game right there. Cavaliers, and then the Hornets. So those are just the next 3 after the Pistons game. So let's just say you didn't go with the Pistons. We'll start off with the Hawks. Win or loss right there?
Loss.
Cavaliers?
Loss.
Wow. Maybe Hornets?
If LaMelo is playing, it's a loss. The Hornets seem to have the Spurs number lately. They really do.
Yeah. All right. Up next, Mavericks, Kyrie Irving. So right there.
Do we have to go with that?
And then they wrap up the road trip with 2 games in Utah.
In Utah, I would definitely say a loss. I think maybe out of all these games, they have potential 2 wins, maybe, in the rest of the schedule they have.
Yeah. If I'm just looking at we're just looking at the road trip, the best shot is going to have to be Detroit or Charlotte. I think that's it, because DeJounte's going to want to open one on his former club. You know that's coming. Cavaliers.
Does he get knocked on his butt?
You know how many Spurs fans would love that?
Should we shout out Zach Collins for this?
Probably, or Sohan getting under his skin. That would be fun.
I can see that happening, but I think getting DeJounte knocked to the ground is probably a Zach Collins type thing. I wouldn't even put it past I wouldn't even put it past one of the other guys like Josh Richardson or somebody.
I think they just saved that for the game in San Antonio. Let the fans enjoy that. But look, we're not advocating violence here. We're not advocating anybody getting hurt. But Spurs fans definitely have that Hawks game in San Antonio circle. But yeah, I'm with you. It's got to be either the Pistons, which is the next game, or the Hornets. And I think if they can't get past one of those two teams, then forget it. Just go ahead and shelve Keldon as much as you can and tell Devin to take his sweet time coming back from injury. All right, when we get back, I'm going to ask Rudy a mystery buy or sell question right here on Locked On Spurs with Rudy Campos. We're really excited about our new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the number one sports book in America, FanDuel. And if you're new to FanDuel, well, that's even better. They even have great features that make betting on sports fun and easy. Download FanDuel right now so you can bet on Super Bowl 57 with a no-sweat first bet. You'll get up to $3,000 back in bonus bets if your first bet doesn't win. FanDuel lets you bet on everything from the money line to point spreads to who will score a touchdown. FanDuel Sportsbook app is safe, secure, super easy to use, and best of all, you get paid your winnings instantly. Now, go join FanDuel today at FanDuel.com/lockedon. Go claim your no-sweat first bet on Super Bowl 57. Do that right now. That's FanDuel.com/locked on. Look, it's fun. It's easy. I know people who use it. They're always trying to say, get on this. And boy, did I get on that fast. Yeah, FanDuel app. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sportsbook partner of the NFL. We're back on Locked On Spurs. We're joined by Rudy Campos. He is with Sweep the League. Follow him on Twitter at Sweep the League. So, Rudy, once again, we know you're a little bit short on time because you got work to do. But so let's going to wrap it up with the mystery buy-sell question. I think you kind of know what it is already, though, regardless. Buy or sell, LeBron James is the GOAT after breaking Jabbar's scoring record a few days ago.
I'm selling 100% selling.
Ooh,
I've been
selling.
called a LeBron hater, and I have openly said everywhere, every podcast. I've been called everything about it, but I don't hate LeBron. I love the game. I have issues with, I guess, him on a man standpoint, I guess, the way he plays the game sometimes. And I don't like the flop. I don't like the crying. I don't like any of that stuff. But I respect the man's game. I give him props for breaking the record. No doubt about that. But as the GOAT, I definitely sell. I'm going to put it to rest, man. To me, the GOAT is, yes, there's a GOAT. But I always look at it now that there's got to be GOATs in eras. The game was played so different back when Kareem and Wilt were playing to when Michael and Barkley and them were playing to now where we have Giannis and LeBron. The game is so different now. So I think with the GOAT right now, I would say LeBron probably is the GOAT of his era. Jordan was the GOAT of his era. Kareem was the GOAT in that era. To give him one over the other, it's kind of preposterous now. It's a debate that's never going to be settled. It's a debate that's never going to win. These guys never played against each other. So how do we really, truly understand who the GOAT is?
I'm still leaning towards MJ, Michael Jordan. And the reason why is because he's undefeated in finals. I mean, to me, that says a lot right there. And I know people are going to be like, well, different eras, as you're saying right now. Oh, different rules. Well, okay, fine. Go with rules. Well, it was harder to score back in Jordan's era. The hand checking rules. And did we forget about, remember the illegal defense? What happened to that back in the day? They don't call illegal defenses anymore. You can just sag on defenders. Yeah. So I give Michael Jordan still that edge. Do you think, I know you're selling on that, but should Tim Duncan be in the conversation of GOATs?
Yes, 100% yes. Tim Duncan is definitely top 5 basketball player on most people's list. There's no lower than 6 or 7 on. It should be no lower than 6 or 7 on anybody's list. But definitely should be considered one of the greatest of all time. Should be considered a GOAT in the conversation. But again, Tim played in that era where you saw some illegal defenses called. There was still around when Timmy was playing. But then he also got into that era where it wasn't called as much. And even the era of traveling is now 5 steps, not 3 anymore. So
exactly.
There's a lot a lot of, softer times in the NBA now. Scoring is a lot easier now. I mean, Luka Doncic, of all people, said that it was harder to score in Europe.
Cam Thomas for the Nets. It's what, back to back 40-plus point scoring outputs?
Yeah. It's scoring is easy. I'm going to say it's easy.
Yeah. Yeah, and Popovich has been asked about the scoring in today's modern NBA, and he jokes he goes, it's all about the three, and he's waiting. He's being silly about it, but he's he's waiting for the 5-point shot to happen, or the 4-point shot, as he says. But yeah, look, kudos to LeBron. A record that I thought in my lifetime I would never see broken, but we saw it. I was glued. I was watching the game, counting down with everybody, and
it's going to be broken again.
You know what? And I was thinking about that, who could break it next? If he
Luka
has a long career, okay, I got Luka. Yes, you're right, Luka in there, and maybe I'm getting too ahead of myself here. Could Wemby do it, given his size and his skill set?
No, I'm going to say no.
You don't think so?
No, because a guy of Wemby's size. I mean,
Jabbar did it at the center.
Jabbar did it at center, but what does Wemby have that Jabbar doesn't? And well, actually, Jabbar has something Wemby doesn't, and that's an unblockable shot. Wemby doesn't have an unblockable shot. He doesn't have a go-to move
that we don't know of yet. But his height alone, his height alone should give him an advantage. That's an advantage that he has over Kareem.
It should, but people above 7'1" predominantly don't have great NBA careers, and I'm still skeptical because he hasn't played NBA competition. It's a lot harder, it's a lot stronger, it's a lot easier, but the guys are way stronger, and they don't put up with a lot of the stuff.
And look at the longevity that Wemby's going to have to face. I mean, LeBron is late 30s. Jabbar was in his early 40s when he broke he got the record.
18 years. 18 years. So,
and be relatively injury-free, because LeBron, for his credit, he's been relatively injury-free. He has never had a major injury that set him back a full season or anything like that.
It was one time in the Lakers.
And to think Tim Duncan was one Ray Allen shot away from going undefeated in the NBA Finals. God, that burns me. I wish that. But, then they're always going to be Duncan never won back-to-back. So there's that. So
there's always something, man. You're never going to win.
Something. Exactly. All right, we're done talking. We want to hear from you. What do you think about the Mavericks adding Kyrie Irving? How do you think that's going to impact the Spurs, either in the short term this season, probably not at all, or long term? That's the bigger question. Also, what do you think about LeBron James? Do you agree or disagree with us? We don't consider him the GOAT, that MJ is still it. And when do you think the Spurs are going to win? Rudy, tell us all about Sweep.
Yeah, Sweep the League. We drop episodes every Sunday. Being that it's Super Bowl weekend, we may not come on this Sunday.
No, I don't blame you.
Every Sunday we come on. We're actually doing Spotlight segment now, so we're doing NFL draft stuff. We've got a lot of local SA media coming on. I'm circling Jeff Garcia to come on a Spotlight show.
Yes.
We're launching those, but I always end with some Spurs past memory guys for the 50th anniversary. I want to get coaching in, man. You got Doug Moe, Bob Bass, Larry Brown, who had the avocado thrown on his head on his way back to the locker room, John Lucas, and I got to remember the very, very short career of one Jerry Tarkanian.
Yeah.
That was I was hoping for the running Rebels type offense here in San Antonio, and the only thing that ran was Jerry out of town after so many games.
He didn't last that long. Not
was
even
it
a full
8
season.
games?
Yeah, it was
8 or 9 games.
Big. I remember this. He loved playing Sweet Pea, Lloyd Daniels. I mean, that was his guy. I mean, he was constantly out there getting on the buckets. Yeah. If you go to Vegas and have you been at a summer league game, there's a statue dedicated to Tark in the front of the UNLV arena, and it's him sitting on the bench with biting on the towel. That was
biting on the towel, man.
I still don't know why Red McCombs went after him. That still baffles me. I don't know why. It was the name.
The name. Well, I mean, you got to remember he was coming off back-to-back titles or a title from UNLV with Larry Johnson and Ogden and them. So I think it was just a move he wanted to make. He was going to bring, Tark Mania into town, the running Spurs, all this stuff. It was hype, and it just didn't work out. And we had to settle for John Lucas, then Bob Bass, and Bob Hill, then the greatest of all time, Greg Popovich.
You still think Bob Hill was jobbed?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that was a little messed up.
Yeah.
Think about it. Bob Hill was just a bad season away from becoming a GOAT coach, having Duncan and Robinson. Like, it was right there.
Yeah. And you know what?
Yeah.
Bob was a good coach.
He was a really good coach. They just couldn't get past Utah back with Carmelo and Stockton. That duo just kept on smoking him, and he just couldn't get over the hump.
Beat Utah then.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, thanks, Rudy, for hopping on Locked On Spurs. Appreciate that. We appreciate the letter that your family sent in. They're praising you. Hope you paid.
I'm gonna let them know to listen. Yeah. I'm gonna let them know to listen.
Yeah. So subscribe to Locked On Spurs wherever you get your favorite podcast: Google Play, Stitcher, iTunes, Kens 5+ app. And thanks for making Locked On Spurs your first listen today. Make your second listen game-to-game NBA. Every moment, every top performance, every result. Locked On Game-to-Game covers every game from across the NBA with local analysis that only Locked On can deliver. Follow Game-to-Game on Locked On NBA. Available on the Odyssey app, YouTube, wherever you get podcasts. So for Rudy Campos, I am Jeff Garcia. We're going to put a lock in this episode of Locked On Spurs.